Alright, welcome back. This is living at the limit, usually life at 55, but today it's raining, so the speed limit thing says 55, the speed minimum says 40, so being there's precipitation on the ground, I gotta slow it down. I'm probably doing about 48 miles an hour. So, we're about to continue with the show, and I just want to reference the end of the last show. I said we. I speak in the plural a lot. The love for my wife made me understand that it's not 1 plus 1 when you get married. You're actually 1 times 1, which equals 1, which is the whole point of it. We are all one, and we together can do anything. We are amazing. We are gods in mortal bodies, playing on a playground of death, basically, because we all end up dying in the end, this mortal body. But the eternal energy goes back to the collective. In any case, enjoy the rest of the show, and just remember, I love you all, and hopefully you also love your fellow man, because we are all part of the same thing. Alright? And that's pretty much 2012. We understand that, you know what, we're all in this together. We got a lot of things on the horizon. We have galactic alignments, and everybody's talking about this time of the cycle for things to happen. Things are happening. The poor people who died in the tornado, the landslides, the earthquakes, the tsunamis, the radiation. We're all getting all this rain. All this rain has radiation from Fukushima. So everybody's got drippy noses and can't get rid of a cold. It's because we're being poisoned to death. And some of us aren't going to make it. That's the reality of it. Probably most of us. But if you prepare, because you can, because it's 2012, and we have access to the most variety of things, good and bad, than anybody we know of ever had. So buy some water, bring some trail mix with you everywhere you go. I bring a skateboard, just in case. But here we go.
Back to Coast, we're going to take your calls in a second. Our guest, Chris Carter. Chris, you also did some work with your book, Science and the Near-Death Experience. What did you conclude about these near-death experiences?
The near-death experiences? Oh, the second book. Well,
it's your book, right?
Yes.
Okay, what did you conclude by it?
Okay. Kind of like telling you the end of the movie, isn't it?
Depends if it's a good movie.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I eventually ended up concluding that the near-death experience is exactly what it appears to be. That is, a genuine separation of mind from body during the early stages of biological death. I examined virtually all of the proposed physiological and psychological explanations or alternative explanations for the near-death experience, and I found that not one of them stood up to critical scrutiny.
Not one?
No, not at all. You know, there's the usual, the oxygen deprivation, the
sure.
Seizures and so forth, and no, none of them, not one stood up to critical scrutiny.
What about so many people who claim that, you know, Grandma from the other side has come back to talk to them, or there's something else going on? What's happening to them?
Are you referring to near-death experiences?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, life at 52, so I can see some dry pavement.
Well, there's several stages to the near-death experience, and they don't necessarily all happen in the same order, and they don't all necessarily happen in the same near-death experience. But some are more frequent than others. The most commonly reported experience would be feelings of peace and joy,
right,
usually at the beginning of the experience. Another fairly common experience is the out-of-body experience, feeling either their body lying on the floor or through a resuscitation effort from a position above the body. They may encounter a tunnel. They may pass through the tunnel towards a bright light. If the experience proceeds any farther, they may encounter some beings, either a mysterious being of light who asks them questions about their lives, or they may encounter deceased friends and relatives.
So when one dies, in your opinion, what happens? That's it? All done?
Well, the materialists, according to materialism, which is an ancient philosophy dating back to at least ancient Greece, all things have a physical cause, and so therefore the brain produces the mind, and the mind is at most a useless byproduct of brain activity. And so according to this, when the brain ceases to function, the mind must also cease to function. One of the alternative theories is that the brain works as a two-way receiver transmitter. This again is an ancient theory dating back at least to Hippocrates. Mm-hmm. And according to this theory, as I said, the brain works as a two-way receiver transmitter, sometimes from body to mind, as in sense perception, and other times from mind to body, as in willed action. Now, some of the materialists will say, well, if that's true, well, how can we explain the fact that intoxication can affect a person's behavior, can affect their mental functioning? How can we explain that injuries such as a stroke can affect a person's mental performance, even their personality? Well, the thing is that any injury or impairment of the brain is certainly going to affect the brain's capacity as a receiver transmitter, just as certainly as it would affect its capacity as a producer.
Sure.
You know, under both theories, the operation and manifestation of mind is going to be affected. The advantage of the transmission hypothesis over the production hypothesis is that the transmission hypothesis can explain many sorts of phenomena which remain utterly inexplicable according to the theory of production.
In your website, you talk about parapsychology and the skeptics. What do the skeptics all say about all of this? I mean, is it nothing exists, this doesn't happen? Or are they open a little bit to the possibility that some of this could occur?
Well, there are variations, but I'd like to say something about skepticism first of all.
Sure.
You know, genuine skepticism is a crucially important part of science. New scientific claims must be subjected to the most severe critical scrutiny if we are to minimize our chances of mistakenly accepting false claims. But genuine skepticism is the practice of doubt. It's not the practice of denial.
And that could be healthy.
The practice of doubt is certainly healthy.
Of course.
Yes, absolutely. Otherwise we'd just be gullible.
Yep.
That's not what these skeptics of parapsychology are practicing. They're not, for the most part, they're not practicing doubt. They're practicing denial, which means that they're not genuine skeptics. They're merely deniers.
And they've already got their agenda, I think, before they even probe or investigate.
That's right. They've got their minds made up. You have to understand, as I said earlier, if this were any other field of study, the data would have been convincing to everyone by 1950 due to the work of Joseph Banks Rhine and others. But parapsychology is not like any other field of study. The data of parapsychology challenge deeply held worldviews that are concerned not only with science, but also with religious and philosophical issues. And as such, the data arouse strong passions in many, and for many, a strong desire to dismiss them.
Let's take some phone calls here, Chris. We'll go to Raymond, first of all, in Pueblo, Colorado. Raymond, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I have a couple of questions. I want to know what you think is the difference between telepathy and intuition. I have a lot of experiences where I can kind of just give an educated guess and usually right. And I've always kind of said, well, I think I'm a little psychic, but I don't know what the real difference is between that. Also, a couple other things I'd like to consider are what the connection is with the ability or psychic ability and dreams. I've always believed that in a dream you're seeing someone who's having the same sort of dream or same sort of connection, and you just consciously don't know it. I mean, unless you talk to the person, you may not have even seen the person in years. Is there any sort of connection between those? And do you think it has to do anything with what was discussed the other night with heart and mind sort of thinking, with your heart thinking?
Okay, we'll take some of that. In terms of telepathy and intuition, Chris, do you want to give us some of your own thoughts on that?
Slow down.
Sure.
Come right in.
Well, for me, intuition refers to a sort of non-linear way of thinking. It's kind of like you think about a problem, you just can't seem to find the solution. Then you perhaps go for a walk and you think about something else, and all of a sudden the idea pops into your mind. I don't think that's necessarily involves psychic abilities such as telepathy or clairvoyance. In most cases, at least, I think that's more that your mind is organizing the information in a different way, such that it can suddenly put all the pieces together and see the puzzle. I can't say if that's true in every case. Perhaps in some cases, great intuitive insights have had a telepathic or clairvoyant component to them. But I think that most psychologists would argue that intuition, although it's mysterious, really in most cases doesn't have much to do with telepathic abilities.
In terms of dreams, I've always felt, Chris, that in your dream state, which is very powerful, you have the ability to do things, concentrate on people, get things done, solve your problems. I think dreams are very powerful. What about you?
I think so too. I think that ordinary dreams can be very powerful. But throughout history, there have been many reports of precognitive dreams, that is, dreams that seem to foretell the future. Probably most famous in history is the dream of Abraham Lincoln, in which he seems to have foresaw his own death.
His own death, yeah.
Yeah, which I discuss in my book, in chapter 3. Yeah, there have been other cases of prophetic dreams within history. This has actually been studied experimentally as well. There was the dream labs. I can't remember the name of them, Malmonides or Malmonoids or something. It was set up in the 1970s, and they had a fair amount of success. What they were doing was they were trying to project images at people who were dreaming, and then waking them up and seeing if there's any correspondence between their dreams and what they were trying to project towards them. They had some success, but the problem is that these dream laboratories are notoriously expensive to fund. And so dream laboratories closed down.
I've always wondered if governments were using people to enter other people's dreams to have them die of heart attacks or something like that.
No.
Sounds like another Hollywood movie.
Yeah, it sounds more like a Hollywood movie.
Let's go to Agawam, Massachusetts. Eileen, I get that right?